Hi, this is Owen McCafferty. I'd like to say thank you very much for joining us. Uh, and if you remember in our last video on Back to the Future, we talked about that which was and how they could be qualified to make what you have now even better. Our topic in Back to the Future on this video is looking at what some of the great things in terms of medicine, surgery, and business were, bringing them into a solution that Jamie and I and a few of our other buddies had worked on for a long time that would like to maybe offer as one of the many options that are available.
hmm
Jamie?
Yeah, thanks, Owen. So I think, yeah, the purpose is really to introduce the architect in a way that's intuitive, credible, and differentiated from the traditional consolidation models. So, having said that, what can you talk to us about professional fusion, or talk to them? Obviously, I'm very familiar with it, but yeah, I think just to simplify it for everyone.
Of course, there are a lot of things that occurred. And if you want to go back to the design, this has been in the works for quite a long time. Uh, I've been involved with a few of the folks that are in professional fusion, and we've gone through the classic information. We're in study groups. We were in practices that joined together that had somewhat of a narrative. We knew each other's practices, and I was functioning as a facilitator. And we formed groups. Some of you may remember the group Companion Animal Practices North America. Well, we formed the group for companion animal practices, and we learned a lot about bringing together practices. These practices were designed not to be sold. They were designed to exist ad infinitum and be a way that associates could buy into the practice and still keep that tradition and the practice going, but use the synergies of expense and cost and the Socratic exchange of income from pricing and volume improvements. So we looked at a way that we could improve the entire entity. And we formed the group called Companion Animal Practices North America, CAPNA. Well, that worked for a while, but a lot of the folks in the Companion Animal Practices North America thought that we should be looking at options that exist in sales. So we did go through that. Then there was another group with a different set in mixed animal practice, equine, food animal, and small animal. They got together in a group called Mixed Animal Veterinary Associates North America, or Mavana. And that group worked and functioned. And it also followed that at some time, the folks that were in it thought that they would like to at least explore what options would be. And in both instances, both CAPNA and Mavana eventually transacted with a strategic. That is an entity that either had funding through public sources, through private sources, through private equity, and then bought up practices. In each one of these instances, we learned. We learned from the formation of study groups. In some of these instances, we found out things that were good and things that, man, maybe we'd want to change. So around 2018, we started to at least sit down together and think what would be a better option, a better way of doing things. And over the years, we found just extraordinarily talented people, one of whom uh, sits with me in this video. And we came up and we designed what I think is a very interesting option, and that is a group that is not owned by aggregators, accumulators, assimilators. The full ownership stays in the practice, and in fact, a whole partnership is established filled with nothing but either doctors of veterinary medicine, doctors of dental surgery, or doctors of human dermatology. Most of the three areas that we started to design it. But
So,
the
Owen,
great,
if it sounds kind of, as we discussed, if it's a problem of misalignment between ownership, decision making, and the profession itself, the natural next question becomes, what does this better structure look like? I think people want to know.
Well, the big issue is getting all of the benefits of corporate ownership
Hmm.
without being a corporate.
Hmm.
So if you want to say it, uh, that veterinary fusion, dental fusion, dermatology fusion under the banner of professional fusion are solutions
Hmm.
to uh, what is really great about being in corporate ownership, but keeping the ownership in the hands of the doctors so that the current income yield and the long-term appreciation inure to the benefit of the doctors and not separate investors.
So,
That's the
at,
purpose.
so I guess at its core, professional fusion is a multi-generational, multi multi LLC partnership platform designed to preserve practitioner ownership while having centralized support.
Oh, you said that so well. That's exactly right.
Okay, just making sure.
And and if you want to get real technical about it, it's setting up partnerships,
Hmm.
pouring the assets of each one of the practices into a partnership, and then segregating those assets so that each one of the practices that are brought into the partnership operates separate and distinct
Hmm.
with ownership and the capacity for disproportionate distributions.
Right. And autonomy.
Massive autonomy. In
Hmm.
fact, if you go back to Belfast, Ireland,
Hmm.
when the Titanic was built, they had something called home rule. And we designed it so that there truly was home rule in the practices. Each practice maintains its autonomy, yet there's that classic Platonic Socratic effect,
Hmm.
and, and Socrates, I should say, where there's an opportunity to debate as professionals. If you remember in video one, we talked about the importance of being in a profession. This is the ultimate utilization of that professional opportunity.
Hmm. Yes, because most models today are built around ownership consolidation, where a central entity acquires practices and controls them. This is structurally different. And so professional fusion doesn't exist to own practices, it exists to support them, align them, which we've said over and over again, and help them operate at a higher level. Correct?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. And you mentioned multi-generational. That's
Hmm.
exactly the motivation because we've designed professional fusion and each one of the specific professional activities in veterinary medicine, dentistry, and dermatology to last 40 years. That's if you want to look at our business model, it's to last for 40 years because it's designed to offer ultimate freedom. If people
Hmm.
want to sell to aggregating entities, we can help. If
Hmm.
people want to just pass on to existing practices to grow those practices. If you remember in our last video, we talked about being in a multi-doctor practice, a private multi-doctor practice, you have opportunities to learn more and to have greater mentorship. Uh, we believe those will work well too. And we've
Yeah,
designed multiple partnerships in it.
yeah, I think yeah. So an HQ isn't a parent company in the traditional sense, doesn't own the practices, it just supports them. But it also,
Right.
with centralizing the functions that create complexity and inefficiency for doctors, so you'd be looking at the platform doing the accounting and financial systems, human resources and recruiting infrastructure, compliance and regulatory oversight, data analytics, reporting, training, CE, it's all part of it, and clinical alignment, but and technology platforms and integration. So everything doctors need to run a modern, high-performing organization without taking away control of their practice. So I think that really I think it's important that they know that it's a support from control. So we're separating the two. It's not control. So doctors keep ownership, autonomy, and they're no longer operating in isolation.
Well, the other advantage is, people would say, well, what's it going to cost? Well, the aspect is, what are you going to make?
Yeah.
And the fact is that we believe we can shave off in terms of EBITDA 3.5 to 5 percentage points of cost.
Mhm.
And then from the income standpoint, remember the synergies of income, cost, and expense? From the income standpoint, we believe that through continuing education, which you had
Mhm.
mentioned earlier,
Mhm.
as being the focus, that we can introduce new ideas and thoughts into practices and the mentorship opportunity to make sure that the practices are going to develop them properly through our multiple meetings,
Mhm.
that we can improve the income stream uh, in adding into the practices to improve the ultimate EBITDA by another 3 to 4 points. So we think we can improve the EBITDA in a lot of the practices, the honest EBITDA. That is making sure that you have costs and expenses and that there's not a lot of monkey shines going on. Uh, we believe that we can improve the value by income as well as the synergies of expense and cost.
Mhm.
But there's one other factor, and that is if you want to talk about the multiplier and the multiplicand, if you remember from third grade, the multiplier in terms of determining value is the capitalization factor, and the multiplicand is EBITDA.
Yeah.
So the neat thing about professional fusion is we improve both.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah, and I also kind of want to make it clear that th these are platforms. So the dental, and dermatology, like you had spoken earlier, but each are tailored to the nuances of those professions. So it's not like we're lumping everybody in, and they
No.
really are specific to those professions.
And if you think of the platform, it's kind of similar to software as a service because the platform is
Mhm.
changing constantly because each profession is changing. Remember in our last video, we talked about the good old days when I knew back in 1976 what occurred?
Hmm.
Well, it sure has changed in the profession of veterinary medicine since then.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it definitely has. And we need to create something sustainable, a model where doctors can build equity, maintain autonomy, I can't say it enough, and still have access to the infrastructure required to compete and grow. Not just for today, but again, across generations. So, yeah, I think
And it's
go ahead, please, Owen.
no, it's not right for everybody. I just want to say that.
Hmm.
It's not the solution. It's only one of the many options. And private equity is a fine alternative. It really is. And for individuals that have that as an option, it's wonderful. Owning a practice singly, especially when you're trying to develop it. Although we do have a de novo group that we've established. Uh, and for example, in veterinary medicine, we call it veterinary fusion partners uh, D for de novo. But we've established a lot of them, and not every solution is right. But professional fusion, and specifically veterinary fusion, dental fusion, and dermatology fusion, have options that will exist and be of benefit to some people. And those are the people that we hope will consider.
Hmm. Yep, I agree.
So, Jamie, it's now about gosh, we're into it a little bit, maybe taxing the ears and the comprehension of people. We'd like to maybe go through a couple other options what exist, but in all of the things and going back to the future, there are new things that are developing,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of people that are seeing what could be. Uh, so professional fusion is an option, and now you know a little bit about it.
Hmm.
Uh, but Jamie, we're going to be going back into future videos and Back to the Future.
Hmm.
And this is not a narrative of what professional fusion is, but I'd like to explore some of the other options that are available in going back to the future.
Hmm.